In this video, we are going to go through the process of creating an AI-generated background into which we are going to be able to put a subject from a real photograph. So to start, I want to create that AI-generated background. I'm going to use Adobe Firefly. And one of the nice things about Adobe Firefly, as compared to some other AI image generators, is that it's trained on the Adobe stock photos. So these are photos that are already available for purchase that Adobe owns the licenses to, so that we do not have to worry really about any sort of copyright. The only thing that we have to worry about is going to be telling everybody that this is an AI generated image, which we'll see Adobe has actually taken care of for us as well. So today, to do this, we have this little search bar here, this little generation bar, and we can type anything we want. I'm going to type in a magical forest with a mossy log. And once I have my seed phrase here, I'm going to click generate. So Adobe is going to think about this, and while it's thinking, we're going to go through some of the things on the side here. It starts out, the default is a square image. There are some other options like landscape. So if I wanted a landscape, I could click generate. And other things like the content type is photo or art. You can have visual intensity, strength of the match. We can actually even upload and add images to this, as well as put different effects onto our image. So once it's generated these images using whatever you've chosen on this right-hand side along with your prompt, we will get a series of images. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, you can see that these all do look very similar. It's likely that these all come from the same few images on Adobe stock, but they also all are very, very realistic to an extent. They are somewhat hyper-realistic, but this log looks like it might be made of plastic. But again, this is artificially generated. This image is not of a place anywhere. So if I wanted to use any of these images, I go up to more options and I can click download. Now, when I go to download this, Adobe actually adds content credentials to this image, letting everybody know that this image is generated with AI. This is an important thing because this means that faked images do not get out into the world as real images, and it keeps you, the designer, honest. So I click continue, and I've actually already downloaded one, so I'm just going to click over to here, and this is my magical forest with a large mossy log. And up here, this is, whoops, she is already selected here. Deselect. This is my subject. So we can see she was already selected there. Let's just go ahead and go back to that. To do that, I'm going to grab the object selection tool. And because I want these balloons in here as well, I'm going to click up here and drag. And this is going to tell object selection that I probably want to get everything in here. So let's see if we can do this. And yes, so as we can see in here, even everything down to the string has been selected. Now, to put her into this forest, I'm going to put her behind this, put her behind this log here. Let's make that so it doesn't flash like that. I'm going to go up to edit. I'm going to go up to copy, or Command or Control C. And then Command or Control, if you're on a Windows computer, letter V to paste, or go up to edit. press paste. Now I am going to use one keyboard shortcut. It's Command T or Control T on a Windows computer to get free transform. And I'm going to size this person down because I want to put her standing behind this log. So probably right about that size. Once I have her where I want her size-wise, I'm going to press Enter or Return. And my next goal is going to be to now hide the lower half of the subject behind this log. So go ahead and change the name of this layer over here in the right to subject and hide her. This way, when I know that I want to show this back up, I will know because it's also named over here. I'm going to select the background, and I'm going to go ahead and grab that object selection tool again. And we're lucky enough that the object selection tool, it sees this log, and it lets us just click and automatically select it. So with this selected, I'm now going to go back over to hide this down here. I'm going to go back over to my subject, select this layer again, and I'm going to click Mask. Now, this mask, as it is, because it is just this here, is not very helpful to us. Now, there are some shortcuts to this, though, and what we're going to want to do, because we want the top half of her, not the bottom half showing, we are going to want to invert this mask. Now, because a mask by itself is, let's see it as it actually is here, black and white, this is what the mask actually looks like. So black background, white where the mask isn't. So where the image shows is the white part. Click cancel to get out of here. And what we can actually do is invert this. We can flip it so that the white and black are changed. To do this, I'll select my mask here by clicking once. I'm going to go up to Image, go to Adjustments, I'm going to click Invert. And if we watch the mask on Subject, we'll see that the white, this black background is now white, and the white part is now black. Now, she might be still standing a little bit higher up than I want, so I'm going to click this little chain between these. This unlocks the mask. Let's first see what happens if I move with this. I'm going to grab the Move tool, letter V. And we'll see that when I move the subject, the mask moves around with her. This isn't very helpful, so I'm going to undo, Command Z. But if I click this little chain here, I can actually, whoops, I'm moving the mask. Let's select the subject here, the actual image. And I can move her independently of the mask. So probably, let's say right about there. Looks pretty good. So at this point, I'm going to zoom in. And one of the things that throws this image off is that she is a little bit, this image that we had here is somewhat desaturated as compared to this image here. This is a thing with AI images, is a lot of them will tend to have very toned up, bright colors, almost hyper-realistic. And we can work with that. We can actually make her look like she's in this by going over to Adjustments, and I'm going to click on Hue and Saturation. Now, if I try to adjust the saturation now, say I go up to maybe 20, we'll see that very subtly the whole image changes. It gets more saturated. To change this, we really only want this hue and saturation to affect this one layer. To get that to happen, we can Control click on a Mac or right click on a Windows computer. This is a Windows computer. And I can go to create clipping mask on this layer, on this particular layer. And what this does, this puts this little arrow here, and this makes it so that this particular layer, this particular adjustment, only affects the next layer down for it. And by doing this, we are able to push the saturation of this image up a little bit, possibly even darken the colors to make it look like she is actually standing in this forest and is backlit. So let's bump this up just a little bit more. And by poking this eye, we can see she looks a little bit more like she is in that forest. Now, the last thing that we want to do is we are going to want to go ahead and add a shadow. If she were standing next to this, we would have some small amount of shading on her dress, on her arm here, that would be created by standing next to this log. To do this, we're going to go down here to the bottom right, and I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call this shading, and I'm going to grab the brush tool, letter B, make sure this is on black, and up here, the top, change the hardness, make sure the hardness is at 0. Now I can go through here and very subtly draw that shadow. That's not subtle at all. But at this point, what I can do is press Option on a Mac or Alt on a... At this point, what I'm going to do, I want to make this actually just on her. I can press Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC and move this up. So now it's just on her, and what this does, I've duplicated this mask. And I can change this now over here where it says normal to something like hard light or soft light. I'm going to start with hard light. We're going to see what we can do by changing the opacity down just a little bit or a lot. And maybe that's still too much. I'm going to go to soft light. And this is very subtle, but if we hide this and show it again, I'm going to Command 0 or Control 0 to zoom out. It very subtly puts her into this image. I may even grab the eraser up here, and I'm going to change hardness on the eraser down to 0. And I'm going to zoom in and maybe even erase a little bit of this. And even with this, I'll show you with normal what I've done. I'm going to Command Z so you can, whoops. Back to normal here. If I'm erasing like this, I can erase like this. I can also, undo so we can see this again. I can also do this with soft light on, and this actually lets me have just a little bit more control because now I can see what I'm working with. And just like that, we have a person from a real photograph inside an AI generated image. And the last thing I would want to do is go up to File and save this as a PSD file, and I'm done.